Welcome back to the table. For this episode of From the Archive, we're checking out 40K stuff because I alternate 40K and non 40K, right? And I was going to do a non book, right? Because I started doing that for this season of From the Archive. But with the Necron and Space Marine Codices announced for 9th edition of 40K, I thought I'd take us down memory lane all the way back to an old edition of the Space Marine Codex. This is not your 4th edition Codex that people might be more accustomed to. This is prior to that. Crimson Fifth's on the cover, right? Ultramarines pretty much dominate the cover nowadays, so that's quite a difference. But the reason I want to go back to this, and the reason why I have two mini codices I already covered underneath them, or underneath it, is because this is the setup that we're basically going to be doing now in 9th edition with the new Codex coming and new supplement books coming. If you don't know, the Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and Death Watch will not be getting their own respective codices this time around. Instead, they'll be getting supplement books, and they'll be using the Space Marine Codex as their core book, kind of a literal Codex Astartes. So back in the day, these mini codices did the same thing with the Space Marine Codex. They didn't call anything supplements back then. If they did, it would be called supplements and not Codex. But how it works is, you needed the Space Marine Codex, and then when you picked up the Dark Angels one and you went to the, went to the heavy support section, notice how it says Devastator Squad, C, Codex Space Marines, Whirlwind, C, Codex Space Marine, etc. And then where you have Ravenwing stuff and whatever is listed. So that's pretty much how I'm guessing it's going to be working when we get the supplement books for the Dark Angels and the Blood Angels, etc. Is that in there we'll have a force organization chart, or I should say an army list breakdown, where things that you use from the Space Marine Codex should just be listed, and it's going to say see Space Marine Codex. That would probably be my best guess at how they're going to achieve stuff nowadays. So it's nothing new and nothing to panic about. Blood Angels, same thing. They wrote it a little bit differently in their codex. Let me find it. So instead of saying Devastator Squad C Space Marine Codex, they list them. And they say instead, you may choose from the following heavy support units that appear, they call it pages, but on Codex Space Marines Army list. So these are the ones you're allowed to choose from. It'll probably be more akin to this. That way, if it's not listed in your supplement book for the new ones when they come, then you can't take it. That's my best guess. And of course, your specific things will be fleshed out, as you saw with the Ravenwing and stuff in the miniature Dark Angels Codex. So that's why I have these two back here. I went over them already, both of them. So let's take a look at memory lane here with the Space Marine Codex. This is an old book, just as the other two are. You're going to quickly see how old it is. Not so much by the artwork, although some of the artwork is definitely older artwork, you can tell. It's not bad, just older. But in looking at the vehicles showcased and the miniatures and whatnot, just on the inner cover alone, we're looking at quite an old Land Raider setup. And yeah, this is not anything new at all. So with these older codices, they're thinner. All the art was black and white with just colored sections for model showcases and whatnot. Fluff was definitely less of it in comparison to codices nowadays, but the fluff was done. Okay, so I guess a modern codex has fluff for specific units and whatnot fleshed out, give us more information on them, on characters, and so on. Fluff here is like almost like a section of a novel or a novella. That type of fluff is what it feels like. But it's still cool. Of course, we have the why collect the Space Marine Army, some fluff, Space Marine Army list information, special rules, and then you go right into it. Your armory, your HQ. No captains here. It's leader, commander, force commander. I guess you could say leader is like a lieutenant, commander is like a captain, and force commander is like a chapter master in terms of how we would have stuff nowadays. So there's that. Everything's very basic. Special rules wise, options, it just says the hero can take any equipment allowed from the Space Marine Armory, so it calls out stuff there. Chaplain, Command Squad, Terminator Squad, Terminator Assault Squad. Just one dreadnought, no ironclads or venerables here, just dreadnought. Space Marine Veteran Squad. There were no Vanguard or Stern Guard, just your basic veterans. Tactical Squad, Scout Squad, your transports. Assault Marine Squad, your bike squad, attack bike squadron. Scout bikes were a thing back then, and then we have our land speeders. Now what's pretty interesting is for heavy support, you'll notice there's only the Land Raider. No Land Raider Crusader yet. Pretty cool, pretty different. Predator, Destructor, and Annihilator called out differently, and then your Vindicator. Of course, Whirlwind and Devastator Squad. So, a bit more bare bones than what we're used to seeing nowadays with Space Marines. This is many editions ago, so you have to keep that in mind. This is a bit of a time capsule of what Space Marines had. Some more art. Where to begin in choosing a Space Marine army. What I like here is they showcase a bit of each. HQs, elites, fast attack, heavy support. They showcase a bit of each, and they give you the strength and weakness kind of associated with them. For example, tactical squad weakness, not optimized for specific combat roles, and that's true. But their strength is that they are well armed and armored, and they're versatile, and that's true. So, just some real basic things to kind of just get you zeroed in enough to understand what you're looking at if you were brand new. So I do like that. Here we have showcasing some armies, how to expand your force. We have the Dark Crusaders force, and then we have a White Scars force. So notice, tactical squad, scouts, just one bike squadron. Chaplain on a bike, granted, and an attack bike, fast attack. They were never meant to be a purely biker force. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, some basic Space Marine tactics. I just get a kick out of seeing these old school models, such as that land speeder. Anyways, and then some Space Marine chapter colors to consider. Now, as old as this book is, it includes the modernized coloration and scheme for the Raptors chapter. And that's important. Not really important, but I find that important to note because prior to the scheme, they were blue with yellow. Very different look. So it's interesting because I would have to compare this to the Space Marine, How to Paint Space Marines book, the old one, because that has the old Raptors color scheme in there. But I think it does showcase a Crusader, Land Raider Crusader, so I'm not certain on how to compare and contrast. But I thought for sure we would see the older Raptors color scheme. So this is part of the whole conjecture of Raptors and Raptors Legion. Maybe they were two different chapters entirely, or just became one, whatever. Anyways, moving on, not to get bogged down there. You can definitely see the older Space Marines here. And if you were to take these models, which have the old school green-lipped bases on their 25mm bases or 28mm bases, whatever. But if you took these guys and compared them to modern day tactical Marines, not Primaris stuff, just modern day tactical Marines, you would notice a difference in scale. You would notice a scale creep. Model size creep, scale creep, whatever you want to call it, has been a thing in 40K forever, basically. We noticed it back before Primaris were even ever a thing. If you got some of the older shoulder pads they used to sell, which were pewter, they were actually a smaller shoulder pad. It would fit, but it's actually a smaller size than the plastic ones from the tactical squad, so box and so on. So, yeah, scale creep has been a thing. Anyways, they're showcasing some color schemes, and you can definitely tell it's old from both the miniatures. The paint schemes are done fine. They're done clean. They're not hyper detailed like we notice nowadays in codices. And this Black Templar symbol would never fly in a modern day Codex visual. It's not awful, but you know, it's definitely, you can tell, not a transfer. And if they're gonna freehand something nowadays, it's gonna look like it's a transfer. It's gonna be that good. Anyways, moving on. What I miss from the older codices that I wish will be a section in modern day Codex stuff is how to paint your force. Basics. Painting Space Marines, how to paint an Ultramarine. This is a white base coat for the Ultramarines. That's different. Yellow as opposed to gold for Second Company. That's old school. But they went over how to do undercoating, how to paint metallics, how to look after your brushes and paints, which I thought was really cool. They go over how to use inks, which would be shades and washes nowadays, basing with flock, basing with sand, how to use transfers. They even go over some terrain concepts, and they also showcase the really old, well, not now it's old, back then it was the standard, the how to make war games terrain. I don't have this version of it. That's an older version than the one I have. But then they showcase some terrain from that and which ones would work, some basic structures to give you some terrain. Just really cool things to really flesh out your collection to be more than just miniatures to play a game with, but how to basically have and collect the hobby itself overall, which I thought was really neat. Some old school transfers right there. Anyways, just really cool looking stuff. We're gonna go a little long-winded here because I don't want to rush looking at this little time capsule. A Black Templar's vehicle, a little bit different from how they do it nowadays. All of these Predators and Rhinos and Whirlwinds are all old. You can definitely see that. This Dreadnought's on a square base. Heresy, right? Let's throw a riot. But anyways, the old rectangle bases that they put the bikes on, old Predator, Razorback. It's just, the Whirlwind is definitely, I prefer the newer Whirlwind compared to this, but I do like the old Razorback design. The old Predators are cool looking, the old Rhino's cool looking, but yeah, very different from nowadays. Nice little time capsule. But once we see past this, then they even go into how to paint up Space Marine vehicles and even how to add extra detail onto your vehicle. Such as adding a bit onto your bikes or to make aerials for your vehicles. Even paper flags, hand painted and then glued on to give you some extra detail on your Rhino. Just cool things like that that you miss out on codices nowadays. The closest you get to any of this is in the Grey Knights Codex, the 8th edition Grey Knights Codex that talks about how you need to convert up a Grey Knights chaplain. And that's about it. So, yeah. Nice little bit of a time capsule seeing that. And then past this, we see a showcase, Heavy Metal Team showcase. This is old school. This is really old. This is the old Emperor vs. Horus diorama. That's the Emperor in white Terminator armor with a power fist and a power sword, and that's Horus with twin lightning claw and red Terminator armor. Very different from the dioramic art we know nowadays. Much prefer the newer art, to be honest with you. Sanguinis, very different, right? Still dead. But yeah, that's the diorama from back in the day. Old, you may not have seen that. It's on the internet, you could find it, but it's definitely further dates this codex as an old codex. And we have Morneus Calgar, Tigerius, and so on. Some more fluff. And the fluff to read in these older codices is a lot of fun to read. Space Marine war gear, vehicle upgrades, and finally we get to the special characters, if that's what you were waiting for in a codex. There's Morneus Calgar, Master of the Ultramarines. Back when he just had his Artifice armor and that's it. He never fell back. A little fluff on the gauntlets of Ultramar, his entry. Old art for him, that does look cool, I don't mind it. But yeah, Morneus Calgar, Chief Librarian Tigerius, so definitely been around a while. Captain Cortez of the Crimson Fists. Pedro Cantor is a character we've been known since 5th, right? This guy, I think, disappeared come 4th edition Codex. His lore is that he's missing in action. They don't know if he's alive or where he is, although Pedro Cantor still believes he's alive. Take note, Taicho and the Blood Angels. Cortez is not known if he's alive or not, so he's not part of the Codex anymore. I mean, that's probably not why, but hey, it works out that way. Take note. What's really cool here is that being that the Black Templars were a part of this Codex and not anything truly fleshed out like we know them to be now, we have the Emperor's Champion entry for any Space Marine army that was over 1,000 points. So it had the black sword and the challenge and everything, but it was just really cool to see it be something that wasn't sectioned off solely for Black Templars. It's fine that it's only a Black Templar thing now, it's fitting, but it's just some food for thought there. That was kind of cool. Chaplain Xavier of the Salamanders. He's dead. And he's not a special character. Hasn't been basically since this codex. I think he might have been in the 4th edition one, could be mistaken. But 5th edition onwards, no Chaplain Xavier for sure. He's dead. It's like Taicho's dead. Why is he still in the Blood Angels Codex? Anyways, a cool character though. The slightly confusing thing is there is a Horus Heresy card game art for a character called Xavier, and he was a Salamander's chaplain also. So the name gets thrown around a bit. And then one of the coolest things I like about special characters in the Space Marine Codex over time is that this is Lysander, the same Lysander, but this is Sergeant Lysander with power armor and a bolter. He has Terminator honors, but he's in power armor and a bolter, and he's just a squad sergeant at this juncture. It's just cool to see him evolve over time into what he is now. I thought that was pretty neat. And then that's it for special characters. Not a lot. Back in the day, there wasn't really that many. Here's a Space Marine scenario for attackers and defenders, with a Space Marine force and a Defender force to fight against. Planetfall mission, how to set up your table and everything else, and then some more fluff. Our Astarte ship classes, Apothecary, Testimony, the layout of the Ultramarine chapter as of this book, and this is old, as I mentioned, because Sicarius is not company captain of 2nd Company, that's Agamemnon. So, with Invictus leading 1st Company. So this is quite old, but still very neat. Anyways, with that said, some more fluff stuff, some interesting back cover, look, Black Templars yet again, and Black Templars again. That's the old Space Marine Codex. It was a $15 codex when I bought it. Anyways, a cool trip down memory lane, a little time capsule of what we had access to back then and the models back then. Anyways, do you own this codex? What are your thoughts on it if you do? I like having a little bit of history like this, a little bit of a time capsule thing. I find it neat. But the big takeaway and the reason why I want to do this is because this is your core codex. Back in the day, if you were playing during this edition and you wanted to play Dark Angels, this is the setup you had. If you wanted to play Blood Angels, this is the setup you had. Just like we're going to in 9th edition. So just wanted to kind of share that with y'all. Anyways, that's it. Share your thoughts. Thanks so much for sticking through it. And until next time, take it easy.